Hello everyone, and welcome to Wednesday. This week I will be eating tacos, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to talk about yet. Mostly because I found an opportunity to do this video when the tacos were made, and I woke up from a nap 10 minutes ago. So I'm still a little bit out of it. I'm sure I will figure out something to talk about. Cheers. If it looks a little weird, it's just that my taco is smothered in sour cream. And normally, when I'm eating tacos, it's normally just cheese, ground beef, and sour cream. Because it's very good. Yeah, it's a good taco. Oh. Got a little sour cream on my thumb. And in the corner of my mouth, apparently. Yep. These are pretty good tacos. So, my brain's still a little foggy. I'm still trying to wake up from the 3-hour nap I just took. I don't really know what to talk about. I'm going to talk about Shakespeare again. Because when in doubt, default to Shakespeare. So, in AP Lit, we have just recently finished our first independent reading project, and for that, I read Romeo and Juliet, and I annotated my copy of it to hell and back, and I wrote an essay on it, and I made an 8. Which, for anyone who doesn't know, AP essay grading scale is 1 to 9. So, I felt pretty good about that essay. It was 6 pages long, and it was about violence in Romeo and Juliet, specifically the violence in Act 3, Scene 1, the duel between Mercutio and Tybalt, and Act 5, Scene 3, which is when Romeo and Juliet take their lives. And how those connect to the plot as a whole. An interesting thing that I came upon. Some people commonly like to gripe that, oh, Romeo and Juliet is a stupid love story. They killed themselves for love, blah, blah, blah. You're missing the significance of the play. They say it right in the prologue. And I would read the prologue if I didn't have sour cream hands. But it specifically says that the feud between the families can't end unless Romeo and Juliet end. So that's stated right before the play even starts. You just have to catch it. And right at the end, the prince talks about how my mind is drawing a blank. He basically says a similar thing. They've killed themselves and now you're gonna make up. You're gonna make up whether you want to or not. I feel like the prince would. They were ready to reconcile, but I feel like if they weren't, the prince was about to be like, he was about to kick some ass. So, yeah. I have a lot of feelings about Romeo and Juliet in particular, because it is, as it currently stands, my favorite Shakespeare play. And everybody's gonna be like, oh, that's so shallow, they're just teenagers and they fell in love for 3 days and then killed themselves. It's like, do you have critical thinking skills? Have you ever read a book? It's definitely not as shallow as some people seem to believe, but that could be a fault of pop culture, and also the fact that reading it and seeing it acted out is just a little bit different. And by a little bit, I mean a lot of it. You should do both. For my second independent reading project, I will be reading Hamlet. If you can't tell, I am a pretty big fan of the tragedies over the comedies. The comedies are good. Let me put that right out there. The comedies are good. I just tend to gravitate toward the tragedies because I like the drama, I guess. I like to torture myself with an unhappy ending. But Hamlet's good. Hamlet is my second favorite. And it has actually been 2 or 3 years since I've read it the first time. So I'm excited to read it again. What is that just fell in the background? Something just fell and I caught it on camera. I think it was a ghost. BuzzFeed Unsolved, come to my house. There's a ghost. But yeah. I've actually read a decent chunk of Shakespeare's works. Not all of them, though I will read all of them one day. That day is just not today because it takes a while. Well, not always. Sometimes I can sit down and read it in one session, but that's not the best way to get the meaning out of it. You have to stew on it for a little bit. And you definitely have to look at the annotations at the bottom because sometimes those words are just... I have no idea what they mean, and I speak English as my first language. This is not modern English. This is ye old English that I don't get. But, let's see. I'm running through my head the list of Shakespeare's plays and which ones I've read. I have read The Tempest, As You Like It, Two Gentlemen of Verona, Midsummer Night's Dream, Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Othello, Macbeth, and I know there's more. Julius Caesar. At least 9. I'm sure there's more, and I just can't think of them at the moment, but they're good. I do enjoy me some William Shakespeare. The next ones I want to read, probably over the summer, Troilus and Cressida, which is a tragedy about Troilus, who is a Trojan, and Cressida, who is a Greek. Pretty sure she's a Greek anyway. And basically they fall in love during the Trojan War. And it does not end happily for them. I also want to read Twelfth Night, which I've heard is very good. And maybe Much Ado About Nothing, which I've also heard is very good. And I'll just run through them. Any of my Shakespeare pals out there, recommend to me what you want me to read next and tell me about it. Because you can say a title and I'm going to look at it and I'll be like, uh-huh, cool. It's got to spark my interest. The only reason I want to read Troilus and Cressida is because Achilles and Patroclus are in it. If anyone's wondering, the reason I cover my mouth so often is because I think it just probably looks gross when I put that much food in my mouth at one time. I don't want, like, anything to fall out or just look gross in general, I guess. I will actually be seeing Romeo and Juliet live this summer, and I'm very excited about that. But if you want to see a really good movie about Romeo and Juliet, please, I am begging you, watch Romeo and Juliet 1996. It's directed by Baz Luhrmann. It has Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes in it. It's very good. The actors for Tybalt and Mercutio, they do them so solid. And I love it. It's hilarious. It doesn't hold all the details, but for a movie, sometimes they have to be dropped. And honestly, with what it did, I think it did it very well. It's a typical Baz Luhrmann movie, so if you like Moulin Rouge or The Great Gatsby, then this will definitely interest you. Just watch it. It's my favorite movie of all time. Please. It's very good. I don't have any other Shakespeare movies to recommend because I haven't really seen any. One I want to watch is Hamlet with Maxine Peake as Hamlet. I do like it when Hamlet, or any character that's traditionally a man, is played by a woman, mostly because I'm gay and I love women. And it just looks really good. I want to watch it, but I don't know where I'm going to watch it, so. Shakespeare is definitely very interesting and fun to read if you can get used to the language. Honestly, it might help to have like one of those Spark Notes easy reads. I wouldn't recommend it because they will interpret things differently. Sometimes it's better to just power through and figure out the meaning for yourself, the meaning in your heart. A lot of copies of these plays will have annotations at the bottom for certain words or phrases, and it normally helps clue you in. But it's definitely fun because there's a lot of different ways to interpret it. Some ways are wrong. That's a joke, fellas, out there, but I do prefer some ways of interpreting things over others just because that's how I see it. But it's definitely something I think everyone should read. I don't think you should be forced to read it like high school seems to think, and then read it and it's boring. I think at least if you're going to read it, you should act it out, which is what we've done every time I've read Shakespeare. And I've always had a great time acting it out. And I just think it's fun. I find a lot of enjoyment acting it out, putting myself in the character's shoes, and reading it and just interpreting it. I think it's very fun, and I definitely think there's a lot of depth to his work. And I think everybody should read some Shakespeare, even if it's just one play. Pick one play that sounds the most interesting, read it, see it acted out, see movie interpretations of it. It's good. There's a reason we're still pulling from Shakespeare like 400 years later. Of course, Shakespeare isn't infallible, and there's sure to be plenty of stuff in his works that aren't great, or they're problematic. I hate that word. But honestly, you just have to read it with a critical eye and remember that these were written 400 years ago. But even some of his stuff feels a little bit more, I don't want to say progressive for the time, because I wouldn't know, but sometimes it's just fun to read. It just feels good. So, that's all I have to say for tonight's video. If anybody wants me to recommend them a Shakespeare play to read, even if I haven't read it, I'm sure I can find at least a summary on it. I can recommend you a play to read. I'm sure I can help you find ways for you to watch it. I'm just very passionate about Shakespeare. I really do like his work, and I do think it survived for a reason. But yeah, I will recommend plays to you. If you want to recommend plays to me, feel free. Yell about Shakespeare to me on social media. I always have my social media links in the description. And I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of their Wednesday.